Hi everyone, it's Jill Lancet, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Greystanes, New South Wales, Australia. How's everybody? I hope you've had a great week. Today for me is Sunday, and the weather, even though it's autumn, has been quite hot. And I don't like really hot weather. But anyway, ages and ages ago, I got a request from Trishelle to show you guys how to create a scene. So I'm sorry it's taken me so long, Trishelle, but I'm going to do it today, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You can create these background scenes and then put anything on them if you wish. But I'm going to show you the products that we've been using. You can shop here with me with safety. JillLancet.stampinup.net. This is my email if you've got any questions at all. This is this month's host code. Oh gosh, it's been a long couple of days. I had 3 lunches in a row, so yeah. Anyway, here's the annual catalogue, and all of these items are in the annual catalogue. So I'm going to show you the first things that we're going to use, and it's the stamp set called, let me move that out of the way. It's called This Birthday Piggy. And I have the stamp set here. I've already stamped our piggy. It's the one on the motorbike. I've also cut it out using the coordinating dies. Okay. Now the dies, I think, might have been a special offer, but you can certainly fussy cut. Oh, actually, I should tell you that somebody on one of the Facebook groups said, I don't like it calling it fussy cutting. And I thought, hello, I'm interested. She said, I'm going to change that to precision cutting because it sounds so much more impressive. So you could precision cut this out. But anyway, it doesn't matter what you put on it. Today we're concentrating on the actual making of the scene. So this is the stamp set I've used. I have used the fluid watercolor paper. It's on page 140. Sometimes these things are a little bit hard to find in the catalogue. Fluid watercolor paper. We're also going to be using the watercolor pencils, or a couple of them, just to finish off the scene, to put that finer detail in, and these watercolor brushes. I'm only using one really, and they are on a page 129. So they're number 10 there. They're the water painters, and you actually put water in them, but I also use water as well. Of course, we're going to be using some ink from ink pads, but we're going to go on and start making this right now. So I always have a little bottle of water just to augment what I'm doing. So okay, now I'm using the one of the plates from the Stamper Artist, one of the spare plates. I'm going to be using that as my color palette to pick up the ink from. I've got a piece of paper towel. I've got a piece of the fluid watercolor paper here. Now it comes 5 by 7, and I've simply cut it in half. So this is 5 inches this way, 7 inches that way. So I've just simply cut it in half, and we're going to create a card using this. So this is what you need: a bit of scrap paper, a bit of paper towel. You need your ink pads. We'll pop that under there just so it doesn't go astray. And we're only going to put one stamp on this scene today. and that stamp comes from this new one called Legendary Ride, which is in the mini catalogue, and I'm using that little rock and plants. So I have everything ready, I hope. I say that, and yeah, then it doesn't happen. So we're going to create a scene. Now this is the little scene here, and I'm going to show you how I achieved that. So let's start. Let's just dive in. Let's just start. So I need some garden green. Now, I'm no artist by any means, but there are a few rules to art, and one is that the further away things are, the lighter they get. Okay, so we want some darker green in the front. So this is just one of my little ink spots, and this table rocks a bit, so I apologise for that. If anybody gets a bit seasick, I'm sorry about that. So I've put some garden green on there, and the next colour is going to be the Parakeet Party. So it's a very light, vibrant green. So this is one of the in colours, the current ink colours. So I'm just going to put some of that on. So as you can see, I'm just stamping that straight onto the plate. So we'll close that. So they're the two greens, Parakeet Party and Garden Green. Right, so we need the broadest watercolour paper brush. It's quite wide, so I'm going to keep my paper towel over here. So what I did was I just squeezed some water out of the brush, but I do supplement that with my little jar of water, so you might see me dipping into that occasionally. Now you want to wet the watercolor paper first. Okay, so around about probably, I don't know, and I want to show you what I'm going to do. I will show you what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm picking up some water, and I want this to be quite what they call shiny wet. Okay, shiny wet. Now it's quite wet. Watercolor paper can take this amount of water quite easily, and it will dry really well. So I need it to be shiny, and I'll show you that in my terrible close-ups that I tend to be out of focus when I do a close-up, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to rectify that today. So I want you to see how shiny that is. So it's pretty wet. So now I'm going to dip into this, and I'm going to pick up some of the darker green. Now that is going to be the foreground, and it's always darker in the foreground than it is in the background. So remember, the further away you get, the darker it is. So I'm going to clean that in my water, and I can squeeze the watercolor brush, and water will come out, and I just want to get that dark green out of there so I can pick up the lighter green. So I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to add some water, and I'm just going to put this on. Now where I've wet this, it should only go up as far as that. So it will bleed into where the water is. So now I want to come down and mix the two colours. It really is quite easy creating a scene like this. So the mid-ground is probably going to be a mixture of the two. And that, as they say, is that. I'm going to clean this brush. I'm going to get my heat gun. Now you can let that dry naturally, but for the purposes of speeding things up today, I'm using the Stampin' Up! Heat gun, and I'm just using it on speed number 1. Now this might be a bit loud, so I won't talk until it's dry. Please fast forward this if it's like watching paint dry, which it kind of is. But it doesn't really take that long. You'll see that it starts to warp when it's when the moisture is out of the paper. And to remedy that, just flip it over and dry it from the back. And you'll see it's starting to curl up towards the heat gun again. So you just flip it over and do it again. And that's it. I said I wasn't going to talk during that, and I did. Okay. Now, if you want more darker green in the forefront, then by all means put it in. But we are going to do some colouring with the pencils, so I'm going to leave it like that. We can compare the two at the end. Now I'm just going to wipe this up. Actually, I'll get another piece of paper towel and I'll just clean this off here. Okay, we're finished with the green. Sorry about that wobbly table. Sorry. Trying to be very aware of that. Okay, so the next colour that we're going to be using, now I'm just going to clean the green out of this because now we're changing to the blue. The next colour is Balmy Blue, which is a lovely light blue, sky blue, dare I say, sky blue. And we just want to put some on here. I'm just, as you can see, I'm just tapping it on there. And we'll just close that up. More than likely, that's probably loads more than I need. Oh, we are going to use another stamp, which, yeah, okay. We'll get there, because I always forget something. Okay, so we want to put some water on here now. And we're going to start at the top and work our way down. Now I want it fairly watery when I get to the bottom because I want it to sort of be quite pale when it hits that grass. Now, as you can see, it's very, very watery. Now, to make the clouds is simply, while it's wet like this, is to get a tissue, which I forgot to get, just an ordinary tissue, and crumple it up and then just blot it. And it lifts up the ink and it creates those beautiful clouds. So I'll make a long one. I'll make a long one now. So there's a long one. Now you can keep making clouds for however long you want. And you've got a scene. And there you go. So we'll need to wait for that to dry, but I will fasten that up. I will speed that up with the heat gun again. On level 1, on speed 1, and just dry that off. Now, you might be able to see how this is called blooming, where the ink has sort of like run. It's bloomed into the lighter ink. Now that's good because we want to give the illusion of grass in the front, and we're going to add to that, but it's good if it can do that, and that's simply because it was quite wet when that dark colour went on, and it's run into the water or the very watery light green. So I'm just going to turn this over and straighten it out. And that's it. We're pretty much done with our scene now. Okay. So you do need this to be perfectly dry. Now, it does warp. This paper is quite sturdy. It's about 300 GSM, if that means anything to you. So it's quite thick. It's thicker than our normal cardstock. So we've got that. I'm finished with this now. So I will clean my water brush just by squeezing the water out through it, or you can do it in your little jar of water. And that's done now. I'll clean this plate and pop that out of the way because we're done. And it was very quick. It was very quick. I mean, you can use a block, you can use anything. Sometimes I have a laminated piece of white cardstock, which then helps me see the colours really good. There's a heap of tools that you can use. Okay, so there's our little scene now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stamp this rock, but we're going to do it twice. We're going to try and capture one side of the rock and then capture the rock from the other angle so that it looks like it could be two different stamps, but we're only using the one. Now I'm going to stamp it in a very dark, it's called Evening Evergreen. It's very dark green. And watercolor paper, normally I would suggest you do this in the Stamparatus, but we're going to actually colour over this, so it's not going to really matter. But watercolor paper has tooth, which is like texture, and so sometimes it doesn't go all the way into the texture of the paper. But as I said, it doesn't matter because we're going to be colouring over this, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So I've inked this up. I'm going to stamp it just to check it, to make sure. Beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to stamp over here. We've already got kind of like a hilly part here, so we'll stamp that there like that. And it doesn't matter that it's in the green, and it doesn't matter that it didn't turn out because we're going to go over it. And now I'm going to stamp it again over this side and capture the other half of the rock. I'm going up a bit higher because I don't want them in the same orientation. Remember, we're creating a little scene here. So there we go. The other stamp that we're going to use is out of, and I just grabbed these. It's this little, it looks like lavender, but you know what, it looked like trees to me. So trees it is. So I'll just get a block. And I tore a piece of scrap paper. I'll just tear a piece of this scrap paper. Just to use as a temporary mask. And I'll show you what I mean in about 2 seconds flat. Okay, so here's our little lavender. I'll show you what it looks like. I think it's lavender. But it also looks like a tree to me. So I stamped it once, I stamped it off, and then I just used this little piece of paper as a mask because I want them to appear like they're on the other side of this hill. So I stamped them off and then I stamped them. So it looks like they're on the other side of that hill. Now, they don't have to be perfect, they're in the distance, okay? So don't worry. People are not going to judge your card because that looks a bit wrong. So move them up and down to create different height of the trees. We'll pop another one over there. And as I said, just don't worry, just have fun. It's a little whimsical scene. So, oh, that one's a bit dark. I forgot to stamp off. Doesn't matter. It can be in front of those ones. So there we go. We've stamped those off. Don't know what I've done there. I've got schmutz all over it. Okay, that's it. That's the stamping on there. Now we're going to do some colouring. I better close this up because we all know what's going to happen if I don't. And I just took out 3 of the watercolour pencils. Old Olive, Early Espresso and Garden Green. Now I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to turn these into interesting rocks. So I just took the Early Espresso. Make sure your pencil's nice and sharp. If it's not, just sharpen it up with a pencil sharpener. And I just drew over the outline. And this is why it didn't have to be perfect. I just drew over the outline. And then I drew all of these lines in. And then I just coloured it in. Now there's that texture I was explaining about before. You can see the texture in the rock. And that's from the texture of the paper. Going to do the same thing over here. I'm just really following the stamp. Now these are very, very soft pencils. And I'm just going to colour that in lightly. And if you use the side of the pencil, you get a much lighter, what's the word, hand. A much lighter hand. So, yep. Okay, so that's that. Now, with the Old Olive, I just went in and coloured this plant in here. Just filled it in. Oh, and that'll be the lead breaking. That wasn't planned. Just bear with me while I sharpen it. Now the other colour of green is Garden Green. We used that in the ink to colour it. Hang on, we're nearly there. I wouldn't bother except I actually did use it in the grasses that are there. Okay, so with the Garden Green, now what I did was, using a very light flicking motion, I started on the edge and I just flicked like that, just to do little clumps of grass, and they go in all different directions. So I just did a few little clumps here and there. And then I went over it with the Old Olive just to create a bit of texture and a bit of interest in the different colour. So yeah, just have some fun. And it doesn't have to be realistic. There's a pig riding a motorbike in this. So, yeah, where's our Old Olive? So our Old Olive, I just did the same thing. It just creates a bit of texture, a bit of interest. And as I said, it's not meant to be realistic. It's just meant to be a bit of whimsical fun. And that's pretty much the scene. And it's done. Oh, forgot to colour this one in. Okay, now what I decided to do was just put a pop of red behind it, and that will pick up our little piggy, because I put his little motorbike, I coloured his motorbike in red. So we'll just glue that on. We'll just use some of our Stamp and Seal. Now I just cut this the same width as our card. It is going to be a portrait card. This is A4, cut in half this way and then scored at 14 point, look, technically I think it's 14.8.5, but anyway, half, for want of a better word. So I'm going to put this across roughly around about the middle of the card. I want to glue this down, so there's a couple of marks there. I don't know what happened there, but if that bothers you, you can just get your tissue, I hope. Let's see if it happens. Let's see if it works. Just get your tissue and lift it. Let's see, we'll make another. No, don't think it's going to make that disappear. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We're going to put that on there. We're going to glue that down. Now, because it's a bit warpy, the best option is your liquid glue, wherever my liquid glue is. Let's have a look. So yeah, but don't go right up to the edge because it will smush out and you don't want that. You definitely don't want that. So there he is. There's our little scene. Now, if you've got the stamp set that's got the little birds in it, you could put a few birds up in the sky and just give that a nice little back rub. Oops, sorry, I'm shaking the table again. Okay, now you can actually put something heavy on that, but this glue is pretty darn good at sticking that down. Now we want to put some Stampin' Dimensionals. Now I'll just show you quickly. I stamped this in, I stamped it in Tuxedo Black, and I just picked up, this is Petal Pink, light and dark. This is dark So Saffron and dark Mango Melody. And then it's Poppy Red, yeah, Poppy Parade with dark Real Red, black, and a little bit of our basic grey, the light one. And then I just used those colours, the green, yellow and red, just to colour that in. So now that I've told you about that, I'll get some Stampin' Dimensionals and we'll pop this little piggy up. So some Stampin' Dimensionals. We'll definitely put one this side of the flag. We'll put, I think we'll put two small ones on the other side because we want one up the top and one down the bottom, because we need to support that pole. So we'll put another one right at the bottom of the pole. There we go. Now, possibly, because I'm using both sizes, we'll put one there, a small one there for the light. No, what is it? The handlebars. There we go, the handlebars. Sorry, I think I might have just bumped that. One large one there. One large one there. Oh, we might need a small one for his nose. That's the beauty of having these. The small ones, because we used to have to cut them. Oh my gosh, in the bad old days, before they got mini Stampin' Dimensionals. Yes, we suffered. We suffered in the olden days. And possibly a small one there. Okay, so he's going to be chuffing along in our little scene. Where did I put it? There it is there. Chuffing along in our little scene. So I've got to take all these off now. Where's my, of course I can't find my take your pick. see? And we had to suffer like this before Take Your Pick was invented. Oh dear, we suffered for our craft. Never mind. We all have access to them now. That is to say, if you can find them on your desk, but anyway. Okay. So now we want him chuffing along happily. Chuffing along like that. It says happy birthday already. Just drop him down. And if you wanted to, you could take some garden green, using it on the side, and you could just put some shadow underneath him. Just like that. And there's our little card. And that's how you make a scene. Not make a scene, but make a scene. Anyway, thanks for requesting that, Trishelle. I'm so sorry it took me so long to do it. If you have any further questions regarding that, here is the original scene without the little piggy on it, so that you can compare. I'll just take that out of the way. You can have a look at those two side by side. I just picked up the red in the little bike just as a major contrast, because there's a lot of green going on in this. So yeah, I hope that answers the question on how do you make a scene, create a scene, and I hope that's helped anybody that was interested in that. But thank you so much for your time. Please do go to my store if there's anything you need to purchase. My host code for this month up until the 5th of April is that series of numbers and letters. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Hopefully I'll be able to make another video before then. But yeah, thanks for your time and take care. Bye.